Watch!
Second watch.
I hope people can hear us. I hope this
Uh-oh.
thing is on. If it is, I think we can get started. What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining us at the second watch. I'm Matt. This is Gary. What's going on, Gary?
Hello.
We are going to be doing this hopefully for some time to discuss all things RPG, current events, games that we like to play, that sort of thing. I hope you join the conversation. So, Gary, what's been going on?
Not a lot. Did you game this week?
I did actually. We had my Thursday night um, Lamentations of Elemental Evil game that's been going on for like 2.5 years. They just destroyed the Fire Elemental Temple. They missed something, sadly.
Okay,
But
so real quick, in
yeah,
case people aren't on your server, they don't know, you're running Temple of Elemental Evil
yeah,
using Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
correct.
All right, and it's been going on for 2.5 years.
Yes.
What can you say what they missed?
I don't want to say because they have the option of going back. So, but they did miss something. But yeah, it's something a couple years back. I wanted to see what would happen if I took something from first edition and play Lamentations of the Flame Princess of the game engine. And it started off as I'm just going to run Temple of Elemental Evil because you have the Village of Hamlet, the Moat House, that sort of thing, and 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 then it just kind of turned into a sandbox so I could like import all these Lamentations modules on the map. And that's pretty
Right.
much what they've been doing. And since about February of last year, they've laid siege to the temple with like a small army, and they've just been marching through. It's been kind of a war of attrition. I decided actually after Thursday's session that I think it's time that the temple strikes back.
You were telling me a few things that things have gotten really methodical.
Yeah, and it's
That
been great. It's a very smart play, but I think it's time to shake something up.
yeah, these things happen. Have you ever have one of those nights where like you're driving to a game or you're getting ready for your internet game or whatever, and just you hear that little voice inside your head that says, I think a PC needs to die tonight.
Well, that's my
I do have
secret.
that voice.
That's my secret, Gary. I always have that voice.
Nice. Well, I didn't get to play a game this week. But last Thursday we played so a week and a day ago, we did I think we had our third session. Was it the third session of
Yeah,
the Rove, which is our low level pulp heroes sort of 1920s game. Uh we're using the heroic system for that. Bear the Gen X GM's game. And I really like that system, especially now that I'm using more of the rules. We'll
yeah.
talk about that later, about how we like to, um, approach new games. Anyway, I've been having a lot of fun with that. And I think, we finally had a moment in the third session where the players got to be heroes. You know what I mean? Because we're not really, it's a superhero game, but you guys were, we've been very clear. This is before superheroes. These are pulp guys. They carry guns. This is a different bag. Finally, you guys got to be heroes. So that was a really good change. I'm looking forward to this week's game a lot.
Me
So,
too. Me too. I uh, I've been kind of feeling it, like that lack of being a hero, like that identity. Partly, I mean, I think partly it's just because I've been so steeped in like horror game, that sort of gritty, morally gray stuff. So,
Yeah,
and after that session, I've actually been really inspired by heroic and what Bear has done with be heroic as that sort of mantra. And that last session was really awesome. And that's why I've been, we've been talking about it. Some people on my chat, in my server, Discord server, know I've been like messing around with that system to write a high fantasy retro clone. And I'm taking that motif and I'm just running with it. Like, you are Saturday morning cartoon heroes. Like, you are the best of the best.
right.
Just lean heavy into that. And it's actually a lot of fun, kind of refreshing. So,
Right.
I wanted to highlight our boy Ultra American TTRPG finished up the final boss battle of my Shadow Dark campaign early tonight. Going to start getting into some Dystopian Dawn this weekend. Very cool, man. Very cool. That's I can't remember his last name, Tony something or other, but I read the player's handbook. Dystopian Dawn is very interesting. Very cool. But I'm actually going to be running my second session of the Forbidden Lands with my in-person gaming group tomorrow, and I'm
So
very
you've already run one session of that? You've done a session?
yeah, and that was like 2 months ago, and then Christmas
Okay.
happened. Like, we get together once a month, so last month we couldn't do it. It
What
was
did you
just
think?
we didn't get a chance to really get into the nitty gritty of it. It was like, I'm not much of a session zero guy, especially when you're running like OSR games. You just roll up your character and you just start to play. But Free League, there's a little bit more to it. Like, if you think of story games and war games as on this sliding scale, I sort of feel like Free League's right in the center, especially with this particular game. So yeah, there's like this OSR type element to it, but uh, there's still those questions like who you have a relationship with, what's your dark secret, things that are kind of more story
Right.
gamey. So I had like a few things sort of set up, ready to go, and as we started playing the game, or excuse me, making characters, those questions, and initially I was kind of like poo-pooing them, right? But then I'm like, I'm so glad that we had these questions, because all of a sudden these relationships and story beats and connections, and like, so this little thing that I had, I just tore it up, tossed it away, and my buddies created the starting scenario. They created a situation, and something kind of intense happened, where one of the players is now exiled from their starting village, and so now we're going to start doing the actual hex crawl of the game tomorrow, and that's the nuts and bolts of the game. So um I just wanted to highlight this comment here. Yes, 100%. Canuck Sarum, 100%. The art is like reminiscent of like old school D&D, and you get like these really nice small like leather bound books. Like, it really, Free League was like, oh, the OSR, you say, here's this, like,
Yeah.
it's a really great system. um
Forbidden Lands and Dragonbane are sort of the last two fantasy games that I think I care about right now.
yeah.
Right? Like I feel like I went through a lot of fantasy games recently, or I've just been very deep in like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons style role playing. Um, I find Dragonbane really intriguing because you're going to hear it a million times here. We may as well make it a topic. I love box sets, and that Dragonbane box set is such a value. Um, I haven't picked it up yet because I think it's the game. It might be the game I want to play with the kids, but then there's always Shadow Dark. You know what I mean? I already have. You know what I mean? It's like, do I want to spend more money?
Right. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and Forbidden Lands, I mean, really, Free League. I don't own a lot of Free League, but I've read a lot, I've skimmed a lot, and I really like their product. I like the way they put things together. I know you were a big fan of the Aliens game, right? Like you,
Oh yeah. So just as a general, Free League knows how to build worlds.
yeah,
While I do kind of have some nitpicky complaints about the Forbidden Lands, like in implied setting. Broadly speaking, they know how to do world building. Um, for example, I don't know if I'll ever play Tales from the Loop because it's like a kids on bike solving mysteries kind of
That's
thing.
the game I own. That's the one hardback I own.
Yeah, well, when I read it, I'm like, was totally transported back to the 1980s. And when I read Things from the Flood, which is like the follow up when you play teenagers, it was
Hmm.
like straight up 90s angst. Like I was like pulling out my flannel, popping in the
Yeah,
Nirvana. I was like, yes, like you guys know the 90s clearly.
right, right.
And Alien RPG, it's the same thing. They uh they like brought in all this lore and presented all this stuff from the different movies in one concise package where you can do political intrigue because there's these different political factions that are vying control of the universe on top of the corporations, Wayland Utani, and then you have Siegson, which is like this like bastard stepchild. They can't do androids right, essentially.
Right.
But it's a great game. I think it's better for one shots than actual campaigns because the xenomorph is sort of like the big thing, and once that comes in, your game is kind of over. So like you need to build up to that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of options for alternative monsters or whatever. So, but as one shot, it's awesome. It's great.
Right.
Uh,
Hey guys, I'm watching the chat here. Just so y'all know, if you see a reply from Gary, that is me. Profile pictures of a baby playing a guitar. So anything that says Gary or Gary Lewis, that's me replying to you guys.
I wanna highlight Patty's Parlor Games. He's a Rumble guy, so he's over on Rumble, and he's the guy who drew this backdrop here. Patty, thank you so much, man. You did a great job. He's a game designer like myself, and he's also an artist, unlike myself. And so make sure you guys give him a follow if you don't know who he is. He's over on Rumble, and he says Shadow Dark has been a hit with my wife and kids. My son loves it. I actually asked him one day, "Would you like to play some Hero Quest? The old board game?" He's like, "No,
Hmm.
I hate Hero Quest." I'm like, "You hate Hero Quest? What is wrong with you?
Really?
You're my son. What?"
Right,
And
right.
he says it's too linear. I'm like, "Excuse me?" He goes, "With Shadow Dark, I can do anything," and I'm like, "My boy's OSR, yes." So,
That's great. I think the problem I have three boys and they're all so different. Like getting them to agree to do any one thing at the same time. I've got a jock, I've got a introverted middle child, go figure, and I've got a mohawk bearing 6 year old that is just so this is really the year. The 6 year old came to me the other day and he said, I think I want to try D&D.
oh
And I
yeah,
was like, really? Okay. So now, yeah. So I got all those, Mages and Musings, he uses those, a monster for every season, those paper miniatures in his videos.
oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So I found those, I downloaded all those, I had them all printed off, um, down at Office Depot, big, whatever. And I think we're gonna have a day of like building paper minis, and then I'll teach them how to play the game, and we're gonna use maps and the whole bit. Because I think with kids, I think especially with mine, I think that's gonna be kind of a big, that tactile, having something to touch. I think will
Oh
be really
yeah.
important
Well,
to them.
when I started playing with Ben around that age, it was during the pandemic, and yeah, the miniatures really helped. And I played like a dumbed down version, something I picked up from Professor Dungeon Master. But I want to highlight someone who's visiting here, Griffith Morgan, Secrets of Blackmore. Hey man, thank you so much for dropping by. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you,
got it.
thank you, thank you.
We got to have a Doers again. That was great. I met him at VentureCon a year or so
Nice.
ago. If you don't know Secrets of Blackmore, Google it and go and buy the video. It's awesome. It'll teach you everything you need to know about the origins of the game, the secret history of the origins of this game that we love so much, the hobby. So, Griff, thanks for stopping by, man. Um, so yeah. Oh, and Patty, my son, is just turned 9. So, uh, So what I did was I just used, instead of hit points, smiley faces, and as he took damage, he'd go from smiling to and he just had three stats, and I asked him, "Do you want to be a strong guy, a smart guy, or a fast guy?" He's picked strong, so he got +3, and I'm like, "So what's your next best stat?" It's speed, so he got a +1, and then intelligence was +0,
You are frozen,
and I
man.
just made it a real easy D20. Oh,
Yep.
oh, am I still frozen? Because you're moving.
It feels like we have a little bit of a delay actually on you. I think
Oh, we
I'm
might.
good,
Okay.
but we'll see. Maybe it'll work itself out. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm just
I don't
being
know.
silly. No, you're good now. You're all caught
Yeah.
up.
Okay.
Um, so before we ramble on and on and on, there was something that came up this week. Uh, it was the we were both talking about it on Discord. Um, and it fits into we it's a new stream, new podcast, whatever you want to call it, and we knew that we wanted to talk about why are we doing a podcast, and then why are we doing a live stream, and then as chance would have it, as we're planning this out and getting everything set up, there is the YouTube channels about YouTube is killing my D&D channel, and Professor DM made a video about is it clickbait and is his channel dying and all that. And out of all those videos, I think the most interesting one I saw was probably by Black Lodge Games. I those guys are here in Austin. I live in Austin. I know they're here in Austin somewhere, and I've never met them. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
these guys at all, but they tend to have the most even keeled take on most of these issues. Um, and I really liked their response video. If you want, actually tell if you could sum up the situation and then just kind of ex- get into we can get into the Black Lodge video, but if you could give a better description of what everybody is saying, and you've been dealing with YouTube for a little while at a smaller scale, I know, but what is their complaint and what do you think
You can
about
say
it?
I'm a nobody.
Court is
You
in
can say I'm a
session.
nobody. That's fine. I'm used to it. I, I, I'm,
You have more
I'm
followers
punk
than
rock.
me.
That's how I look at it. I'm punk rock. An aging punk. uh,
They're all aging. There are no new punks. Trust
so
me.
what from what I got from uh, Professor Dungeon Master, it all started from, and I can't remember the guy's name because I never watched his channel. I mean, I'd seen it. He's this British guy who's been doing YouTube for like 10 years. This is how to be a dungeon master kind of
Right.
stuff. And he focused a lot on, beginning dungeon master type things and give you tips. And I guess allegedly YouTube told him, we're not going to pump your channel or, promote your channel anymore. And because it's been doing so poorly, quote unquote. And so
Right.
he's decided to do something else. And Professor Dungeon Master's response was that, well, it was somewhat, how do I want to say? It was like he's kind of like explaining why his things are somewhat clickbaity, but they're really not. But his news is what everybody's really interested in, and that's what keeps his channel going. And I think Black Lodge Games' response is like everything with Black Lodge Games. I agree with like 90% of what they're saying. You know what I mean? I do think there
Right.
is an end coming to the advice videos, because all you have to do is type it in to the search bar and something's going to pop up. If you're looking for how to do a sandbox, how to do this, how to do that. And I struggled with that this past year, 2024, because I'm like, maybe I should start doing advice videos because my channel's not growing as fast as I'd like. But then I sit there and I go, I don't want to write a script. And frankly, what really can I offer other than like what Bandits Keep is doing, which, by the way, is a great OSR resource.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I love that guy, but and that's
Well,
why I thought.
I
having a conversation is, to me, is a little bit more authentic. And hey, whoa, we got Mike Scootifier Mike here. What's up, buddy? Thanks for showing up. Um, I just don't feel, how do I want to put this? Because I don't want to sound too over dramatic. I don't feel authentic writing a script. Like, I feel more comfortable talking to you or anybody really. I've had a
yeah
blast on Max the Owl streams. Um but let's Thanks, Mike. um I don't mean to be sarcastic. I'm just not good with taking compliments. Um but yeah, to me, this is more authentic, and I'd rather have like this organic conversation where maybe we start on something simple, like pull out a hex map and start drawing, and then we get into something really
right
deep, you know that's a little bit more advanced game master stuff. And so that made more sense than sitting down, and frankly, I don't have the time. Like, I started this channel because, number one, I in 2019 I discovered Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and then I discovered the OSR, and I was like, holy crap, Lamentations of the Flame Princess is like pushing so many boundaries. This is like art. Holy crap. And then the Zack Apocalypse happened, and then it's about my favorite game that I just discovered is about to die. So I'm like, I'm going to start a channel, and I'm just going to do nothing but Lamentations to try to promote it. And
yeah
that didn't work. I mean, maybe it kind of did. I don't know.
yeah
But
well
go
I
ahead.
think I was gonna say, the channels that, first off, in my opinion, the advice channels were great. They were great when fifth edition first came out, right? They were timely then. And then when the pandemic hit, I think there was like a second round of them. But I think if your only videos are going to be advice videos, we're kind of over that. Those videos have already been made. It's not like just because they're not new, you won't find them on the
Hmm.
internet, right? Like you can find 10,000 different advice videos. Um, and I think these things are real cyclical too. One of the things I liked about Black Lodge's take is that, they were real honest in showing the number
Oh
of
yeah.
the views, and they're good videos, and the videos didn't get as many views. And having watched most of those videos, I don't believe that the videos that got less views were bad videos, right? They were good. They just weren't, maybe they weren't timely, or maybe just nobody cared about that subject, or they don't care about
Right.
it right now, you know.
Thank you, Elliot.
Um, but yeah, I think a lot of it has got to be. Um, I think a lot of it has just got to be. You have to stay aware of what's happening right now. Things have to be timely if you want those. And honestly, some of those channels, the two I think I've watched them maybe once or twice. They showed up in my feed, the channels that were going to stop,
Yeah.
doing their thing. So I was just like, who are these guys? They're quitting
Right.
already.
Right.
I didn't find out about it. They didn't show up in my feed until you said goodbye. Um, yeah. So which begs the question: why are we doing this? YouTube wants to kill D&D YouTubers. Why would we start a stream right now, Matt? That is fucking
I know.
stupid.
No. No.
Sorry. Can I
No.
cuss? Oh, sorry.
We.
It's my Amber Alert.
Uh oh. Well, we're starting a stream because we are crazy, and I think Black Lodge, like Black Lodge, the 10% I disagree with Black Lodge games is, I think they're wrong that advice videos are still something you can do. I just disagree with that, unless you're going to do something more detailed and deep, like was it the Tumalime or whatever it is, where he's like really, it's the black and white British guy, and and he's talking about talk
Right,
about
right.
immersion. Unless you're doing like something really deep, I don't, and specialized. I just disagree. I don't care how flashy your video editing skills are. Mine are terrible. That's why I do PowerPoints. um, I just don't think that's going to go anywhere. But I've also been paying attention in a broader sense of what's been going on with YouTube. And Jeremy Hambley from the Quartering has said, live stream and short form is where he thinks it's going. And when I look at how popular live streams are. Even in this industry, I'm
Right.
like, this is probably, I think my gut from this summer when I was first started thinking more towards being live streaming is correct. Like, if I want to talk about who I am and what I see as the right way to play or some advice or whatever, having a conversation where I can kind of be myself is where is the way to go. And not for nothing, for those of you
Right.
who do kind of been paying attention to who I am, and I really do appreciate the follows. I just love having fun on Twitter/X. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this guy real quick. I've known Gary for about 4 years. We met.
Oh, come on now.
Well, they got to get to know you too, man. They We met at Professor Dungeon Master's Facebook page when Professor Dungeon Master had like only 50,000 subscribers, and
Yeah.
I would just be there, and then all of a sudden in the middle of the pandemic, I see some weirdo go, anybody want to start a podcast? And I'm like, well, I'm locked down. I got nothing to do. So I was like, sure. And so Gary
Yeah.
and I and this other guy, Brian, we did a podcast for about 9 months. Brian,
Hey,
if you're here, man,
Brian.
we miss you,
I
bro.
love
We
you.
miss you.
Brian, I know that I upset you the last time we played a game, and I know that you'll probably never play another game with me again. But I want you to know that I love you, and I will always love you. So come back to me, brother.
But the so yeah, we did it for 9 months, and then Gary State decided it was not going to lock down anymore, but my state continued to be locked down. So Gary had to go back to work, and our podcast ended. but we've been wanting to work together like ever since. We've been trying to do this, and finally the
Yeah.
stars have aligned. So I'm really excited.
Well,
Gary's one hell of a game master. You guys are going to learn a lot from him.
well, thank you guys. I will admit, I am learning because we've been recording those sessions of the row, and there is a bit of a I am learning how to dungeon master in front of more people than my players, right? Like I didn't think there would be a learning curve to that. I really thought I would just get online and play my
Yeah,
game as normal. But there is this thing in the back of your head where, oh, there's probably going to be about another 20 to 50 at right now, 20 to 50 people who eventually see this, if judging by
yeah,
our views. And I know that shouldn't be a big thing because that going back to work, that job you're talking about, I that job is me being in front of people, directly in front of real life people performing. And you would think it wouldn't be a thing, but it is a little like I'll start to do a voice. I'm not like an actor, but occasionally I'll get a drink in me, right? I want to
yeah,
do a
yeah.
voice or two, you know. But then in the back of my head, I hear like my mom, they're all watching you. They'll laugh at you. So I'm getting better. I'm getting better. But yeah, actually, so I remember I went on the road during when really we went on the road. I think it was something like 3 weeks before Texas officially lifted the ban. And I think the reason Texas lifted the ban is because everybody just went back to work. It wasn't like, okay, now y'all can go back. It was like, well, looks like y'all went back.
Yeah,
It was,
yeah.
I guess we'll make it official. God, you gotta love Texas. So yeah, so I went on the road and we stopped doing the podcast. But when I got to a point where I was only doing weekends again, was when me and Sabrina moved in together. I remember contacting you and like, hey man, you want to get this podcast going? And you were so neck deep in this new channel and everything you were doing. You were like, no, I really can't. And then me and Brian actually did the podcast for a while, and he really likes it a lot more. He liked it a lot more than I did, I think. I don't think we did a bad podcast. I just there was something about the three of us and the way we were able to bounce ideas because we all somehow had a completely different angle on everything. It was
Yeah.
really nice. That was one of my better experiences I've had. Don't tell them to title the podcast. All of them, except for one, have been taken down. They're donezo unless you
Oh,
downloaded them. Um, and they're not good. I went back. One of the reasons I took them down is not. It's not so much as anything wrong like the sound quality, but I think because we were locked in and we were so bored. It was the pandemic. Everybody
Yeah.
remembers. I think it was real easy for us to start pontificating. We got really into some deep subject matter. Some of it was relevant to RPGs, but some of it was just like our high theory on how, you know what I mean? It was like it really went. There was some great advice. I don't want to say we didn't do some good things, but especially for myself, there were moments where I listened to myself and I was like, "Oh, dude," I was like, "You sound like an asshole," you know. But it was a lot of fun, and I really look forward to that. In fact, when I told my oldest boy, Ivan, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do a stream." The first thing he said was, "You doing Matt and Brian?" Because he remembers having to be
Yeah.
quiet because during the pandemic we had such a small place. Yeah, so but that was a lot of fun. So the reason I'm doing this stream, there's really two primary reasons, is I really like disagreeing with you about things. And I really like having
I gotta have to
conversations
tell
about
him the story.
you think yeah, you think this and I think that. But that's it's just fun for me. I think the other thing, the reason I want to do it, and this is a very honest, very selfish reason, is that I really want to use a stream or a podcast to just grow my player base, so that when I say I want to play this game on a Saturday night, um, I've got a bunch of people who are like, I'm in, instead of me having to hunt down players. I know that seems like a small goal, but let's start with something achievable and we will grow from there. But honestly, I want to meet people, I want to talk about games, and I want to have a lot of people around that might want to play some games.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
and this might piss some people off. I don't know. I'm kind of tired of all the theory crafting that I see on some of these YouTube channels. Some of it is good, like it's legit, but sometimes I feel like they're just making shit up to try to put out a video. And I think there's like servers out there where that's all they're doing, and no one's playing any games on these servers. It's like, why are we talking
right.
about this if we're not going to go and do it? So, and I've been slowly doing this with my Discord server, is kind of opening up to more people. Right? It was originally like a private thing during the pandemic, and then it's just been sort of getting more and more people been going, people that I know getting invites. And now I'm at a point where, like, well, the people I know, they're cool. If you want to invite a friend, I'm not going to be upset. I'm pretty, the rules are pretty cool. Just don't be an
Yeah.
asshole to people, and I think one of the goals for 2025 in conjunction with this stream is to keep expanding my completely chaotic and needs some organization Discord server to get more people. So I want to have a gaming server, and I don't have.
Do you have the Discord link up? Do you have the
No, I
Discord
don't,
link up right now?
because I wasn't. I will.
You
I will
need to
get it
get
up. I'll
you
get
need to
it
get
up.
that
It'll
done.
get up. I'll put it in the. I'll edit the little thing.
Don't turn me into the nagging wife, dude. I'm just asking.
But
Ooh, it is. Did I tell you it was
oh
cold here
oh
in
oh dear,
Texas?
was it 40 degrees?
Seriously, bro, not even. It's 56, but it's a little chilly. I don't turn my heater on until we get warmer than
But
that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
want to. I'm willing to actually put the money in too to expand the Discord server so it can have like, it'll be a great problem to have to when I have a bunch of people pinging me saying 3 tables are being run this Saturday and we don't have the bandwidth. Can you
Oh,
put a little bit of money into this? I would love that problem. You know what I mean? So all that's a goal for this year. With this
hey.
um YouTube.
Sorry. At most, I'm having fun with you playing my game too, bro. I'm glad you're there.
No, no, you're good.
Sorry.
We're gonna figure out your
Oh,
secret identity eventually,
yeah.
dude.
You know yeah, right? Um, it's a balmy 23 degrees in Denver. Well, you can move. I don't know why. I don't. Don't every time I say, well, it's colder where I live. Well, move, bro. I know it's miserable. Yeah, that's why we live in the great land of freedom in the United States. You can pack your shit and you can get out. Your weather wants you dead. Colorado, 7 to 9 months out of the year, your weather wants to kill you. Leave, brother. Yo, that's a cool starting goal for a stream or YouTube channel to get a bigger. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something about goals. I think a lot of people do really well setting these, huge goals and then working for a really long time to achieve that. And I think there's a certain personality type that's really, really good at that. Um, I've never been diagnosed with ADHD, but I feel like short goals. Uh, I feel like short goals are they're just better because every time you achieve a goal, you're like, oh, I did it. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Bro, my head is bald. It's
Devil dog,
bald
very
and it's
funny.
chilly. It's not. It's actually not. It's listen, Devil Dog. I want you to know, it's not that it's cold. It's that I'm bald. This is a very thin beanie. Like you can't buy a real beanie down here. I did 2 years in Chicagoland or the Chicagoland area. I was in Wilmette and Downers Grove, so I do understand that this is not cold. But when you spend 80% of your year in shorts, you know what I'm saying? Like in the
Well, I
sun,
do know what you're saying.
a little chill across
I do
that
know what you're
bald
saying,
head
but
is rough.
those of us in Western New York will be wearing shorts in 30, 20 to 30-degree weather because that's what we're used to. Wanted to give a
That's not good for you.
hey, Doc
It's to get
Flamingo,
someone
thanks for
hurt.
showing up, man. Good to see you.
So yeah, I do want to say one other thing about, kind of the player base is that really is, I'm not kidding, that is a goal. I had at one point, um, man, I want to say I had roughly like a gamer friend group of about 15 people. And I remember being able to make some calls, and on any given week, I could put a game together with 3 to 8
Mm-hmm.
people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And unfortunately, you meet a lot of people at work, which meant that everybody I knew, traveled for work, and they were some fairly unruly folks. So it just kind of, I think it was probably about a year before COVID. I just noticed people were moving or just kind of didn't have time to play. And then COVID hit. And, along with an online community and all that to get games going, I really am hoping that if anybody, if people watching, if there's anybody from the Austin area, dude, there's probably 3 or 4 different places we could meet up in town, have a little meet up and play games. And I think that would be a lot of fun. And then once I have a good player base, we'll go on to conquering the world and making millions. I like money.
Yeah, well, you're talking about the online thing, So I've been fortunate enough to have an in-person group that routinely gets together, but for us, it's more of because we've been friends for decades. For us, it's really like our chance once a month, like 6 to 8 hours, kind of catch up on each other's lives. So we don't do, I mean, while there are times of like some serious role playing, there's also a lot of beer drinking, chit chatting about our lives. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it fluctuates moments of beer and pretzels to moments where I think even Max Liao would love it. You know what I mean? I still remember a time where
Hmm.
my buddy was drunk and they were trying to they had to like bolster this army that's this small little army that's about to get overrun by all these orcs, and he was playing this hobgoblin samurai. He grabs a katana off the wall, pulls it out, and he starts reciting the stuff that Morgan Freeman said in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I am not one of you, but I fight. And I'm just like, whoa, dude, put the sword away, man. But uh, but we we don't play. We just play that once a month, and building the community that I've been getting in Discord, which has been great. I'm beginning to play a lot more. And you got like Legacy Game Mastering, who, I mean, Kyle just knows a lot of games, and he's willing to run one shots whenever. So I'd love to see that grow, and I think that is definitely a goal for this year. And just as we're talking about selfish goals too, I am a would be game designer and publisher, freelancer. I would love to get the subs up so when I put something out, I can actually get a return on my investment of time. Not that I'm got any illusions that I'm going to have a $500,000 Kickstarter or anything like that, but could happen, I
Right, right,
suppose.
right.
But um, uh, it would be nice to have people to actually know that I make stuff. So but yeah, so
Real quick, I want to
yeah,
Griffith Morgan. Our generation is the hidden ADHD word. We were told to deal with our lameness and grow up. We were put in the back seat. I don't know if your mom ever told you this, but the one that everybody's heard was, "What are you crying for? I'll give you something to cry about." That was our generation. The second one, and this might be unique to my mother because I've only heard her and one other lady in Texas say this, but I actually heard her say once, "If you call my name one more time, I'm gonna change my name to shit and smack you every time you say it."
wow, huh?
So, Griffith Morgan, I'm with you. I understand. Also, you have 15 people in your group, usually able to drum up 4 to 7. Yeah, that's really how it was um for me for a long time. Now granted, I ran most of those games. There was occasionally someone else would run a game. I don't believe in the whole forever DM thing. I think you should play, right? Like you should play as well as DM. But you know what I'm saying? But it during that point, I think I was DMing like every game, like so. But I think I DM differently, so it wasn't like I prep. What? What's
Yeah.
going on? I think
Well,
I'm a little
I
different.
think well, this is kind of going into what we used to do on that old podcast, and this is something that has really stuck with me, and I hope we can do with this stream because I see a lot of advice. I see a lot of people talking about this. This is the best way to play D&D. This is the best way to do this, that, and the other thing. And what you, Brian, and I think, kind of discovered is that there's these principles at play that supervene and kind of float over the rule systems. Like it doesn't really matter if you're,
Yeah,
playing D&D, Fate, or whatever. There's these principles that are going to be at play, and if you can understand those principles and master those, then you will be a game master. And that's something
right.
that what's interesting is I'm starting to see that pop up now with like where Max Liao's going with like his earlier show with the panel discussion. Oh, and if you haven't figured it out, the reason why we're the second watch is we don't want to step on his toes. So like our show starts after Max is done. We're the second watch. So but it's nice to see people moving in that direction versus if you don't use one-to-one time, your game sucks. It's like, no, that's just a tool.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's something else going on here that makes you a game master, and that's what we should be focusing on. And so, um,
Yeah, an advice video. Let me tell you my problem with advice videos. Almost, I think I've only seen, and I couldn't even name them. I'm just giving people the benefit of the doubt. Everybody, when they give advice videos, they always have the caveat, now this might work for your group and it might not. And that immediately to me says, well, your advice is kind of not for everybody, right? And I don't think I could
mhm.
do any better. Like, I don't think I could give advice to somebody who's like, if they're running BX and they've got somebody mapping and their rules is written, one, that would bore the shit out of me, right? Like I would, for whatever reason, I would just get bored. But it's I lost my train of thought. It doesn't matter. It's advice doesn't work. Your advice might work great for your table, but it's not going to work great
Yeah,
for everybody. I've got this whole like 3-act theory in my head of how I'm triggering events and how I'm looking for the players to trigger events, and that's not going to work if you're playing, Temple of
Yeah, no,
Elemental
you're
Evil.
absolutely right. Yeah,
Who
no,
gives
you're
a
right.
fuck?
And
It's just
that's
not going to
why
work.
I think but I've said this before and I'm going to say it publicly really. Um Being a game master is a lot like being an attorney, and in maybe in some cases like a guitar player. It's not a science, it's not a process, it's a practice. You come out of your
Yep.
initial, you don't know dick from shit, and you just got to do it, and you're going to make mistakes. But as the more you do it, you start seeing connections that you didn't see before, and part of that learning, a part of that practice is talking to other game masters and seeing how they do things. So, in the event that I
Well,
decide to run Fate, I never will run Fate.
yeah, I've run
I
Fate. I'll
can
never do
talk
it
to
again, but
Gary
I've
and be
run it.
like,
I've
oh,
run it.
but but you know what I mean? And I think that's what's lost on a lot of these advice videos too, because if you're not doing the wishy-washy, well, this might not work for you, you're doing the
Right.
puffing your chest out, bruh, this is the only way to play and you're weak sauce. And it's like that's not helpful either. You know what I mean? So
Well, and it also
yeah,
depends on the game. Like if you take any of the Autark games, right? Like I think if you play Ascendant, which I've never played, I would love to play. If anybody runs Ascendant, please invite me to a game. But if you're playing Ascendant or if you're playing Acts 2, which I am really looking forward to playing, you do play those. You play them
yeah,
this way. These are the rules, but that's
yeah,
that game. You know what I mean? A game like Shadow Dark, you could play it as a strict hex crawl, a strict dungeon crawl. You can inject story into it. You can take it because the rules are so loose. If you have a little bit of
yeah,
experience, you know what I mean. It's not that big a deal. But yeah, I don't. And here's the thing: I think there could come a day when advice videos are needed again. Say, for example, something cool happens. Uncle Elon buys WotC, right? And we get a whole new edition of D&D that actually makes sense, right? Remember when I was telling you, let's not talk too much shit about WotC? I just want you to know I'm the first
Mm,
one. I started it,
I've been
episode
good.
one.
I've been purposely not
Um,
bringing it up.
you've been great. You've been great. But let's say something like that happens. God damn it, I gotta stop with the asides because I always forget where I'm going. There will be a time when the advice videos will be
Yeah,
relevant again. But right now I don't think we're seeing the influx of new players that we had, when the
correct.
pandemic hit or when fifth edition came in. I don't really see anything, that's, eh, I think I don't see anything happening in gaming to generate that kind of excitement anytime soon. Just burn all your books. If you aren't trying to be Matt Mercer, you know what, man? I really didn't want to start anything with folks tonight, but I think people give Matt Mercer a hard time. I really do. And I understand if you're a hardcore gamer and you're like, oh, fuck, I would never. I get it if you don't want to run that kind of game. I don't run that kind of game. I don't even, I think the last time I looked at Critical Role was during the pandemic. I think people give that dude, I think they give him a lot of unnecessary flack. If you don't like his show, don't watch it. You know what I mean? That's kind of the way I see it. Go ahead, Matt. Tell me where I'm wrong,
I don't want to turn
and
this
then I
into
will
like
proceed.
yeah, okay,
No,
okay.
no, no. Go ahead.
My
Go
my
ahead. Tell me.
problem
No, let's do it.
my
We're here.
problem with critical.
We got an hour and 10 minutes
I
to
know we
fill
still have
up.
two other topics. Not we don't need to get to them. I don't care. Um, my problem with Critical Role, it really isn't Matt Mercer per se, because he's actually been pretty humble about it, his fame. It's the rest of the crew.
Understood. Hey,
Um,
Griffith, you're good. I get that.
and what I really dislike are the critters, the fans, because they I think are the reason why Wizards of the Coast has decided to turn D&D into a lifestyle brand versus a game. because
Right.
there was like Etsy when Critical Role was at its height. There was all these Etsy stores where like get your critical this third party Critical Role merch
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this
yeah.
like cool dice bag that's got Matt Mercer's face with a heart. Oh, all this stupid shit, and and it just that's really it. So and I can fully concede everything I just said is the equivalent of get off my lawn. I fully concede that. But
Well,
that's my big problem,
it
you know?
is. It is. It is. And I understand. Listen, don't get me wrong. I understand. It's that thing where like, and I see it. Okay, I have my kids, right? The two younger boys were playing this a couple years ago at the park. They're playing the
Yeah.
sandbox. It's a little square. It's not a big sandbox. They're opposite each other. These two other little boys come and sit down, and they're playing. And my girl, who has the best intentions in the world, sees this little girl kind of looking at the sandbox. Maybe she wants to go to the sandbox. Maybe she
Yeah.
doesn't. Who knows? Right? And my wife, with her huge heart, says, "Come on, give her a space to play." And what does she do? She walks in, she kicks over everybody's shit. She takes this, you know what I mean? Like it was a total fucking everything was going fine, and then you throw her in there. So I do understand like the beef that people have. Um, but in the end, I mean, it's a product and they're gonna sell it the way they want to sell it. Um, the best thing we can do is if you don't like it,
Yeah.
don't buy it. And, maybe it'll turn around. I don't think so. I think it's lost, really. I think it is. It's become a lifestyle brand. I think it's one of those things that will, at this point, will always make more money, merchandising than probably actually selling
Yeah.
games. Unless they had another Baldur's Gate, or
Yeah.
something
Well,
like that.
that's been
Um, which I think is really sad, and I think it's bad for
yeah.
gaming in
Well,
general.
that's been
You
part of,
know,
I guess my online identity is like really pushing indie games, indie products, indie creators as an alternative. And I think we may have had this conversation 4 years ago where I'm just like, I think Watsy's on the downturn, and I know I distinctly remember your voice saying, I don't think so. Watsy's never going to go anywhere. D&D's always going to be around. However, in the past few years, some of the major missteps they've taken to really piss off the fan base. Everything from the OGL debacle, what they did with Magic the Gathering, some of this other stuff. And I actually, while I don't think D&D is going to disappear, I do think that its market share is going to shrink. And I think we are on the cusp of a potential, you know, where some of these smaller games might be able to grab a bigger piece of the pie. I think Shadow Dark might be one of them. Free League is definitely going to be there. I'd love to see Autark and Axe and be one
yeah.
of them too, because I really see Shadow Dark being the spiritual successor of BX and Axe being the spiritual successor of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That line, when the you know
Right,
I
right,
would
right.
love to see that, and then the rest of us will, the rising tide raises all ships, blah blah blah. But
Well, and that's why I disagree with you on the whole rising tide thing. Being a comic book fan, I will tell you that when you go into a comic book store, most comic book stores of a regular size, if you go to their new comics, without a doubt, 90% of them are Marvel or DC,
yeah,
right? The big two. Probably in a lot of cases, probably more. A really great comic book store that carries a lot of indie books will be about 85% Marvel and DC, right? Um, so the one of the things I've noticed over the years of reading comics is that when Marvel and DC are just really turning, like the indies get more attention, everything gets so much more attention. But when Marvel and DC are just putting out drivel, and this happens, right? You get a
yeah,
good 10-year phase, you get a bad 10-year phase. You know what I mean? What you see is when Marvel and DC, when those sales go down, those independent books don't sell because nobody's going to the store. They can be great independent books, but nobody cares because the things that keep, you know, I could read all the independent books I want, play all the independent games I want, but in the end, when Dungeons and Dragons comes out with a great edition, I mean, that's your first love, right? I want to read good Batman. And if they're not selling good Batman, am I going to go in the store to take a chance on some black and white indie book that
No,
might, you know what I
I
mean?
see
It's
what you're saying, and I don't think the theory is not I don't think it's invalid, right? The difference here though is the indie scene exists separate and distinct from the the box stores and what you see in there. I would love to see like Arcane Library start like getting better with distribution. I would love to see Autark get better with distribution. I'd love to be able to walk into my friendly neighborhood game store and see something besides D&D. What I usually see is Free League, Chaosium, and a couple of the big names. But I would love to see some. I see Morkborg. That drives me nuts. I hate that game. Um, Cyborg, Pirate Borg. Fuck off.
don't
Anyway.
fuck with Pirate Borg. Do not fuck with Pirate Borg. You
um,
can go after all the Borgs you want, but leave Pirate Borg alone.
um, but
Borg is like a crooked fucking hammer. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, well, I like it.
it just,
Well, I like it because it came out as sort of like a response to Lamentations, really, because like the guys behind it hated James, and from my understanding, this is just what I've heard. But
Mhm.
I like it. If Lamentations of the Flame Princess is like black metal from the late '90s, where they're burning down churches and they're like freaking stabbing people and shit. Uh, Morkborg is Winger. Anyway, um,
Yeah. No, you know what? I don't want to, man, I hate to be like, I know there are people who really enjoy Mort Borg. I don't want to try to screw with their enjoyment of a game. I like when people like things. If that's your bag, that's fine. I find the product itself to be completely unusable.
yeah.
It's like I can't, and I'm a big one about presentation, which I'm sure you'll yell at me for at some point in the coming weeks, because I will pay extra for presentation.
Mhm.
And I think that Morkborg is just unusable. These books have to be, and it's not. I don't find anything wrong with the system. It's another one of those rules light,
Mhm.
kind of things. Um, and then aesthetically, it just doesn't appeal to me. But one of your favorite games aesthetically doesn't appeal to me either. So one of
Oh,
the games that you love.
well, if you're talking about Lamentations, I think now's the time I announce I need a new co-host.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The art in the game means a lot to me. And a lot of the art in Lamentations, I think, is really badass. You know what I mean? But when you walk that line and every once in a while you cross it, like I don't even like horror movies. You know what I mean? Like I guarantee I've been in more fights than everybody watching us right now, but I don't like horror movies, man. Like I'm a baby, I just don't like it. So, but the art, the art's real important, and I think Morkborg is real. It was a really great experiment in sort of making an art book as a game. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair.
I think it failed. I don't think it was very functional. I think Pirate Borg. I really think Pirate Borg is. I think they figured it out. You know what I mean? They made a usable, attractive. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I have read it, and I think it's great. I would love to play it. So yeah, everybody should watch a Kip Winger music video. Agreed. Dude, don't get me started. Like, hey, y'all laugh. Y'all laugh. Being a music guy, being somebody who's made a little money playing music here and there, let me tell you something. That guitar player, Red Beach, is fucking out of this world. And Kip Winger, what a lot of people don't realize is that Kip Winger's job for years before he was in Winger is he was the guy that would gather the best musicians in Los Angeles to play on all these albums. Kip Winger was the musical director for so many albums, it's not even funny putting talent together. When Alice Cooper made his comeback, Alice Cooper hired Kip Winger to put the band together and be the band manager on the road, the tour manager of the band, basically. Winger was just him cashing in. He was a business guy, he was a studio guy with a lot of talent. If you remember that time in the 80s, if you were pretty and had long hair and could play guitar, you made a lot of money. And I was never pretty, and obviously. Um, so that Winger album was like, we need to get rich while we can. Since then, Kip Winger's like that dude. You can make fun of him all you want, but I swear to God, that dude's like written symphonies. He's done music for movies. He still puts bands together. A lot of those '80s guys that would be begging for change in the road, he's kept working. Like after
Mm.
Nirvana, he made sure those guys didn't die. So yes, we can make fun of him writing a song about a 17-year-old girl when he was like 30 something in tight leather pants with long hair and a
Yeah.
hairy
Yep.
chest. We can make fun of that. But all right, sorry, I went on a music tangent. I gotta stop you. We gotta stop using music examples. Or that's gonna happen. Um, what are
All
our?
right.
What's our? We had another topic we were gonna get to. We had written some things down we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. I well the kind of like because this is the beginning of the year, I figured maybe we could talk about games that we're hoping to play this year.
Yes,
Especially if we can get the Discord thing going. So I
absolutely.
know you want to talk about Axe, so
Yeah. So,
go.
well, first off, there's a couple gaming goals with two different games I want to play this year. Um, The first one is Axe. I do not want to run Axe 2. I want to play Axe 2. So hopefully somebody on the server is like, I'll run an Axe 2 game. That being said, like everybody else, time is really limited. So what I'm hoping for is, that magical sauce where somebody says, we're going to play Axe 2 at this time. And I'm like, I'm always free at that time. Let's do it. Um, so there's that. That's the game I'm most excited about playing. I've been reading the PDFs. I want to play either a straight up fighter or a venture. I really like. I mean, there's a class for businessmen. I think that's incredible. Um, I love the advanced rules, right? I love the advanced rules, for domains and all. And I can't wait to get to that. I just want to play that game. Um,
I'm bringing up Brian James here because he's got an Axe 2 game, I believe, on a separate server. I would love it if he brought it to my server so
well,
there's more
here's
people, but
Here's the problem, man. There's a game on your server. There's a Saturday night Axe game, Axe 2 game. And I forget who's running it, and I feel really guilty because I signed up for it. He said it's sandbox. He said, come and go as you please. But I made a character with him and I signed up for it right before I had to take care of that medical issue. And then I was laid up for like 3 weeks. Now my Saturdays are not what my Saturdays were a month ago. You know what I mean? So I
yeah.
really need to write that guy. I feel really bad. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. It's online gaming. I hate to be the asshole that, it's happened to me 1,000 times. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be that guy. I am woke, Brian. Uh-oh.
Yep. Busted.
Shit, busted. I think that's who I made a character with.
Yeah.
What's up, Brian?
Yeah.
Hey man. I would tell you what's been happening to me with the last month, but I don't it's it is me. But I don't for me to explain exactly what's happened to me over the past month would be really just embarrassing. But I will say this, Brian, I will try to make it to your Saturday game. I do want to play Axe 2. I'm not going to be able to make it this week. Um, but hopefully next week. We'll see what happens.
I want to
It's
highlight another Griff comment. Bringing Alexander Macris to Arnicon 3. You can play with the designer
Whoa.
himself if you come. I tried to make it to Arnicon 2 this year because Rob Kuntz was there. And then I got hit with like all kinds of work obligations, so I couldn't go. But Griff, I'm going to try really hard, man. I
Where is Arnicon?
Minnesota, I think. I
Yeah.
think that's where it was. I think Alexander Macris was there last year too. But but yeah. I'm going to try to make it because that's a great one. There's like Dave Wesley will be there to run the Broadstein, like the Broadstein. So
Yeah.
and then there's some of these other old guys, the original, the OGs. So oh, bringing Rob back by popular demand. Oh yes, fantastic. Oh, and I just picked up, or I just not, I just arrived a few days ago, and I've been reading through Into the Blue Yonder.
Ah.
That is a great module. I'll,
Macrease got sick and had to cancel. It says, "What's up,
oh,
Paladin?"
hey, yeah, I game with this guy a lot. He's cool. What's up, man? Thanks for coming. Um, so Axe is on. You have Axe on the brain. Well,
I do
that's
have
cool.
Axe on the brain. The second thing I wanted to mention, because I said there's two games, and I want to. I don't want to take all the time up, but I do want to say that
Oh, we got.
this, yeah, gaming. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we started this heroic game, um, and the idea behind the heroic game was so. If for those of you who don't know, heroic, Barry the Gen X GM, it's I don't want to call it a clone, but it is a universal table game that is very reminiscent of Marvel superheroes. It's only in beta right now. You can get it on Drive Through RPG. I think it's still pay what you want.
Yeah, it is.
Um, I would say, you know what, if I hate to do that thing, like if you don't have money to pay for it, don't pay for it. But one thing that would be cool is, this game is in beta. So, go to the, what is it, Zenith Entertainment, whatever, the
Zenith.
Discord.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Zenith
go to
Comics.
the Discord site, and there's a lot of conversation that goes on with the game. There's a lot of times that, you might come across a rule that you think's a little backwards, but somebody's like, no, 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 it's this, and the rule's not backwards. You just maybe didn't read it right, or what have you. Anyway, Heroic's a really good game, and he has his own really fun sort of superhero universe. So Grognard's, of course, we decided that we had loftier goals,
Yep.
and we wanted to build our own sort of superhero universe, but we started in the 1920s during Prohibition, which in comic book terms, it really weren't superhero comics then. It was all pulp adventures and detectives and sorcery and, jungle safaris and treasure hunting. It was all that kind of stuff. But we've brought it down to a more, I don't want to say realistic, but we've brought it, it's a city adventure, but they're not heroes. They might be, but they're not yet. And then when this campaign ends, because I don't, when we'll talk about this later as well, I don't think every game is great for like years long campaigns. I just don't think that's the case. I think, especially with games that have a more narrative bent, I think they can be served by having a a beginning, a middle, and an end. So with this heroic game, we're going to do the row, which is 1920s. We've kind of just started the middle, the Act Two part, um, and then after we finish up this campaign, I think we're going to do a quick little World War II thing, and I think Lord Mateus might be running that game. And then we're going to move into Rocket Age, which is that post World War II, Cold War, retro future, sci-fi thing. So I'm really excited, and I would run as many heroic sessions a week as I could if I didn't have to make money. I would run
Yeah.
that game with different groups in the same world every night of the week if I didn't have to make money, if I didn't have a
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
what about you, Matt? Sorry to take so
well,
long. What about you?
no, no, that's fine. I mean, the heroic slash Marvel slash the four color system, as this one uh, public domain game calls itself, has really got my attention. And it's funny because back in the day, we would have fun kind of rolling up characters, but then we really didn't have fun playing the game. And I don't know if it's because we are just stupid teenagers or something and just didn't get it. Um, but I've been having a blast with the row, and again, going back to what Bear's mantra of being heroic, it's like light and dark. Like Thursday nights, it's gloom and doom, lamentations. You're in this temple of elemental evil, whereas all this nastiness is going on, and it's like
Thank you,
people are
Griffith.
dying.
Before you leave, thank you.
Oh,
Griffith,
Griff.
Griff's got to go.
Hey, man, I really, really appreciate you showing up. Take it easy,
Let me
man.
know if you want to join a game. I'll run it. Join our heroic game. It'll be fun.
um, but but yeah, so Lamentations is just I've just been steeped in darkness, and so like now I have this heroic thing, and it's been kind of cool. So I want to keep doing that. But what I really want to, and I've been thinking about this for a while. I worked on the game, not like intently, more like kind of like consultant contributed, and that's the Wretched Rooms, or excuse me, the Red Rooms game, Wretched RPG. I'd like to do
Mhm.
some of that. Like again, like the origins of my channel were holy crap. Lamentations is gonna die. I'm gonna see if I can help it. Well, Lamentations is doing just fine now,
Yeah.
and the Red Room. I think they've been really good to me. That book right there in the back, Wretched Folklore. I'm really proud of that. That's for like actually the first edition of the game, but that's
Hmm.
for like playing in their Wretched Country game or Wretched Epic. I published a few small things on their website, PDFs. Um, Isle of the Sapphire God, and then other random stuff I did. I would just ask Miguel, "Hey man, can you format this for me and do all the layout?" And he would do it for free. Like he's just been like
Nice.
super cool to me, and Sylvia too. So I want to like help them out. So I figured I'd like to showcase um, something from the Red Room. My problem has been time. So what I think I'm going to do, instead of trying to create like a new like longer term game to replace Temple of Elemental Evil when that finally wraps up, and it should wrap up, I think, in the next 3 to 6 months. I think I'm actually going to do something more short form. And the game that surprised me, and I wrote a blog about this, The End of Innocence. That's their kids on bikes game, dude, and it does something that I have not seen any other kids on bike game do. And it was like captured being a kid. Like
Yeah.
you get powers that only work if parents aren't around.
Right.
It is like I was just like, that's genius. That is so genius. And it's not like crazy. Well, I mean, some of it's kind of crazy, but it's like stuff that like if you're riding your bike, like you do, like you're like really good at riding your bike, or like you can turn invisible and sneak around, the monsters or whatever. So I'm once I get my physical copy in, I'm going to start working on like a mini campaign for the summer, um,
Yeah.
10 maybe 20 sessions depending on a Saturday night kind of thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to lean more Goonies and less Stranger Things, uh, but that's something I'm really looking forward to. And then
I
maybe
really
around that.
like Wretched. I think that's a really. I think Red Room's Wretched is. It's like every other game. If you GM'd for a while, there's always something you want to tweak. But Wretched itself, I think, is just a really great game, especially if you're tired of fantasy games. And maybe I know they do sci-fi and stuff like that, but I tried to get a Wretched game going, modern day Wretched. It just didn't happen. I don't think enough people had time. But if you are into like modern day gaming with like TV magic, right? Not necessarily. I mean, you can do the spells and the magic and all that like D&D, but you can also do the rituals and it could be it very easily could be like a very dark Buffy style game. I mean, you could do a police procedural as long
Yeah.
as you're allowed with all of your characters having kind of a shitty side to them. Because
Yeah.
that's the brilliant thing they did. That Sins and Virtues is just hands down like the best alignment system
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
for that kind of. I don't know if it worked in like Axe, but I think it's really great for like a modern day setting where things are great. Sorry to interrupt. I
No,
really like Wretched. I
that's
wanted
fine.
to pipe
Yeah.
in.
Well, I got involved with them really because like I was interested in them, right? And I bought the first edition of the book. And here's another thing about the Red Room. Miguel, when I bought like my physical copy of Wretched Bastards, their dark fantasy game, the very first thing that they made, um, I immediately, after I ordered like the hardcover or the physical copy, I immediately got contacted by him by direct message. He's like, "Hey, I'm really sorry they screwed up the cover. I'm going to send you a second one
Yeah.
for free of charge." And so, like, I have two versions of the first book. One's got like a blue back, and the other one's got, I don't know which one's supposed to be the right one, but I'm like, hey, man, you didn't really need to do
Well,
that, but I really appreciate it. Um, But anyway, so when the OGL happened, because the original version of the game was very much D&D,
Mhm.
and when the OGL thing happened, everybody was like, "Holy shit, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" And I just contacted them like, "Can I help you? Like, brainstorm
Yeah.
ideas how to make this more you and less D&D." And it was just Miguel and I for a couple of weeks just going back and forth. And man, that guy works
Yeah.
fast and hard.
Well,
Like
I got it.
I was shocked at how fast that he was able to pump stuff out.
Well,
I'm
look at how many titles they have. Like, they just released something new, and I'm telling you, at their schedule, we're gonna have something new in another 2 to 3 months,
yeah,
60 to
yeah,
90 days.
yeah,
And that doesn't include the fan stuff, the sort of unofficial, official. Yeah, no, I think they're doing a good thing. I'd like to see them get a little more support. And if you're into indie games, and you want to play a good indie game and support a good company, Red Room and Wretched is the way.
yeah,
You can also get the core rules, the revised Wretched, off of their website, uh,
yeah,
for free. So, and honestly, you don't need anything else. They're one of those companies, kind of like Lamentations, where I think they live off of their modules and setting books and all that kind of thing.
yeah.
Um,
And the thing about the setting books too, is you don't even need Wretched to use them. Like if you have your favorite modern system, whatever it is, but you want to, let's say, run something in the 1920s, 1930s, Wretched Interbellum will be an excellent, excellent resource for you. And it'll have
yeah.
some extra tables that do various things. Wretched Epic for 1890s Paris, that Art Nouveau era with like secret societies. Like, so they're not just like, their books are not just for their game. That's the thing. Like, you could use them for other things easily as like resources. So, but yeah. So
No,
anyway, the Red Room is like, I'm going to make this a wretched year for sure. So,
yeah, no, that's great. So you're gonna play heroic. You're gonna wrap up Temple,
yep.
or you're gonna wrap up your Elemental Evil game, and then you're gonna get some Wretched going. Do you think you're gonna try to do Acts 2 this year, maybe as a player or a DM?
It's 1,400 pages I got to read.
No,
That
you don't. No, you don't. We're gonna talk about this at some point, because you don't have to read that many pages. We've got to talk about, you had said something about talking about how we approach starting games, and I'm telling you, Acts, you know how to play Acts 2. And
oh, I'm
anything
sure.
you don't know right now, you don't need until you hit, like, what, fifth level, or you know what I mean? You'll be
Right,
fine.
right.
Run
Well,
it.
let's get on it. Like, learn. That's the other topic. We're
Oh, is that
learning new games. Like, what aside from reading the manual, like everyone should, you know.
you got to read
What
the
are,
book? Really? Fuck. Honestly, that's actually, that is, I don't know if I call it a bad habit, but I was really spoiled to play. I had a fairly good group of people I could play with that would read the book. um, I remember at one point I was gaming with a lawyer, who was, you just know all the rules. He could, like, absorb the rules somehow, by touch. um, so I was very comfortable running a game where I knew the rules, but I didn't know every single detail. You know what I mean? I'm
mm-hmm.
not, and I'm also, things can get pretty loose. Now, I will tell you that that's also a sign of how much I like a game. There was a game I was running for some guys not too long ago. I guess last year. It was one of my prime games, and I noticed that as the game went on, I just used less and less of their rules. Like, it just kind of became our game, and I'm like, all right, I'm done. Should I say the name of that game? Modern Everyday Heroes. Is that what it is? Everyday Heroes.
Is that the
Uh,
5e modern game?
yeah, I was really. It is, and I do. I think it's better. Like, I think it's a good game if you like 5e. Um, but as you know, how when you start reading, you know how you start reading like the 5e books, you're like, these are great, right? And
Yeah.
then you finally get to the point where you're like, oh, I got to run this shit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Um, and especially if you don't like, not that I don't like maps and minis, but I prefer a more narrative style theater of the mind, game. Um, and I really think that that game benefited, a lot from maps
Right.
and tokens, which doesn't
Well,
make it a bad game. It's just not
yeah.
necessarily what I want to do with
Yeah. Well,
maps.
that's sort of 3E and on in its various, permutations. I mean, it
Yep.
really is a, you know, tabletop skirmish
Yeah.
battle simulator with some role playing kind of tacked on. And that's really kind of where I'm at with 5e overall. I'm just kind of done with it. I would prefer theater of the mind where someone's like, "Hey, can I run up and hit it?" I'm like, "Yeah, yes, you're well
Yeah.
within range.
But
Go ahead,
then
make your attack roll. I don't care." Um,
but then you have those guys that you try to play D&D with that aren't happy unless the map is up, right? Like
I've
those
had a few of those. Yeah,
like the crew that would be happy just playing Hero Quest every weekend. Let's
yeah.
just kill monsters and clear rooms, and you've got those folks. Um, you know, I've begun reading Palladium, Dead Rain. I'm loving it so far. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Matt, do you have any
Is that
experience
the
with
is that the zombie one? Dead Rain? I think it is. Where he's got like all Kevin Ziembia has got like all these different types of zombies in that. I think
Mhm.
that's the one. I've never read it. Never read it.
I have a confession.
Oh, what's that?
I don't what is Palladium? Is Palladium are the Rifts guys, right?
Oh my
Are they
god.
the Rifts
I got to
guys?
get a new co-host.
I know. Here's the thing. I've never played.
I
What is
I
Palladium?
I
There's too many names, dude.
Kevin Siebita and Woosh Kick there. They did TMNT. They did Heroes Unlimited. They did
Oh yeah,
Rifts.
yeah. That's why I
They
thought Rifts because TMNT,
yeah.
bro. Duh, don't give me shit. I never played any of those games. I never did
Oh
because
man,
I didn't have access to them.
we didn't understand how to play them. Like, watching Max Liao stream and actually having a conversation with Kevin C and Beta, I
Yeah,
realized I didn't really fully understand Palladium. But then again, in my defense, the rules aren't really laid out all that well anyway. But yeah, no, I freaking love Riffs. Riffs is such a great world, post apocalyptic take on a take on a post apocalyptic Earth.
yeah,
Let's see. Brian says, Gary, I think it depends on the in-game situation for theater of the mind. If you have a complex logical situation, it really helps player to see a diagram. He's not wrong there. I've actually
no,
taken with my Lamentations Temple game, where I'll open up a map, one of the pre-made maps in
right.
Word Paint, and I have a stylus on my touchscreen, and I'll just start so they can kind of get an idea of where things
Yeah,
are.
let
But
me
I but
clarify.
the but well I'm a big I do not like the tyranny of the grid as it says, because once you pull out the map and pull out the miniatures, it's things just slow down. And I think I'd rather scribble something, be like, this is what it kind of looks like.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Well, I'm not against maps and minis, and I think it can be fun, but I almost prefer like if I'm gonna do maps and minis, like I want to know it before the session begins. You know what I mean? And have some time and do all that. And I think so many of the games that I've played in my life have been so much more, and I'm just gonna say it, they've been more story driven. Not stories, and we have a plot line that's going along, but there is the quest, the goal, the
Yeah.
whatever, and the players, especially like I played, for example, if you play sci-fi games or any Star Wars game, play any game where you give your players a starship, right? And your planning and all that kind of stuff kind of, is for shit.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not but I do like minis. There are times I like minis, but that's going to be the evening. Like we're going to play this encounter tonight. Pretty much, is how it works out. Because I feel like in most games it is a different game.
Yeah.
It's like two games kind of slapped together. Um, Brian asks, how about a regional map? That's fine. I'm not opposed to maps. I think what I'm opposed to and I'm not opposed to anything. But I think the reason that my tastes run more theater of the mind is because I feel like a lot of times, when you're playing a real loose game and your players are proactive and they're really moving everything forward, you may not know what the next encounter is.
Oh
A
yeah.
lot of these,
Mhm.
a lot of these things are very like if you're in a dungeon, well, yeah, why not? You know what's coming up. You know what's here. You know what's there. But like I said, give your players a spaceship, right? And forget about it.
Oh yeah,
You got
they ain't going to Tatooine. You may have wanted them to go to Tatooine, but
right.
they're going to Dagobah or whatever. Um,
Exactly. So yeah, and the other thing is just the slowing down of everything. It really does. Once again, I'm not opposed to maps and minis, but I like that if somebody else is GMing, right? Then bring on your computer maps and minis or whatever. Yeah, sure, let's use your toys. I'm good with that.
yeah,
I don't want to have to put it together. I
yeah,
feel like what is the Foundry, everybody's using, right?
yeah. There's
It's like it's another hobby.
yeah. Well, there's a guy who was gaming on our server for a bit, and he's not there anymore because he didn't like that. I didn't like Dragon Slayer, but not that I have a problem with it. It's another retro clone, but he is just like really good with was it Roll 20, and
Hmm.
he manages everyone's character sheets. He's got all this stuff. He spends all this time on it, but herein lies the rub. He's retired. He's got the time to do it.
Word.
But his games were fun. Like I played in one of his games for a little while until like my schedule changed and I couldn't do it. I just want to highlight Atmos here. I don't think game masters, referees need to provide players maps in a theater or of the mind game. That's the player's job. Based,
Word up.
based.
That's another thing, man. Last year, I was running a lot of OSC. Thank you, Atmos. I was running a lot of OSC games, and everybody wants to play OSC rules as written, right?
Yep,
But you don't have a large ChessX map that your dungeon master spent hours drawing on. You make the map. That is
yep,
your map to make, and
yep,
it can be wrong. And that's
yep,
a core part of the game. And as soon as you tell new people who are like, I want to play rules as written OSC, no, you don't. Within 5 minutes,
yep,
within
yeah,
5 minutes, everybody wants to roll 4d6, drop the lowest, right? For their character. Everybody wants to, when they roll hit points, they want to get a re-roll on a one.
yep.
You know what I mean? Everybody wants those, and because they don't think about it. So I think having the roadmap, man.
I want.
Yeah, and
Go ahead. You were going to say
I was
something.
going to say, I think having the world map in a red and pleasant land was really helpful. That land was so different and oddly shaped that words could not describe it fully.
Yeah, have you ever seen the
I
world map?
I have not.
It's drawn in blocks like a
Mhm.
chessboard almost, but not really. And it's hard to explain. A Red and Pleasant Land by Zach S. is probably one of the most beautiful books I've ever read in terms of game books. It's the most creative thing I've ever read and experienced in terms of game books, but it is not entry level GM stuff. Like it is very, very high level. Like there's vampires everywhere, but it's not 30 Days of Night vampires. They're willing to have a conversation with you, but you're
Right.
also in the land of unreason. So, like, if you tell them you don't like the color blue, that might offend them, and then they will attack. Like,
Hmm.
it's I did a whole video on it. Like, it is the most challenging setting, and um, to Brian's point, I would say Red and Pleasant Land is the exception that proves the rule. you know, that was just a crazy. Like even I was like losing my mind running that setting, and I they were only in it for like a 10-week period. They went there and then they came back.
Right.
I can't imagine doing an entire like year long multi-year campaign in that setting. It's just
That
so
hey that
wild and
that
weird.
that gives me that answers a question, or brings up a question I have. Have you ever, I mean, I know you're using like the module Elemental Evil now, but have you ever, how do I add settings, right? So have you ever run something straight from the setting book? And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'll use ideas from setting books sometimes. But and even though I know that once I put my PCs in the setting, all the rule, everything's, that's
Yeah,
your universe at that point, right? They can burn
yeah,
everything down. But I always
yeah.
have that nagging feeling. I feel better creating the worlds that my players are going to burn down. And I don't know. It's a hang
Um,
up.
no, no, I hear you. So the only way to really kind of answer that is just kind of go through some of my, I guess, my history. In the 90s, 1992 ish, I started a
Hmm.
campaign that lasted about 10 years. But it was an adventure path. It was the Hickman Revolution. Everybody had read Dragonlance. They wanted to run it. They wanted to have that experience. So like that's what I started putting together, and it was in the Forgotten Realms. And I quickly just ignored a lot of the drama in the Forgotten Realms. Starting around second edition, Forgotten Realms started turning to shit. It got really bad in third edition, but I had the first edition books, and I remember the
Hmm.
smell of the paper. It was like this
Right.
amazing. It was the Forgotten Realms. It's this great place.
I had the first
So
box set.
yeah, that's what I had. And the so I ended up kind of doing my own thing with it, but a lot of the Forgotten Realms lore informed kind of what I was doing, but I took it over. I tell people nothing is canon. That's like if
Yeah.
there was a Lord Mattias sort of advice I could give you, nothing is canon. The moment you buy that book, it's yours. It's your world.
Right.
You do whatever the hell you want with it. I mean, don't deviate too far. I mean, you don't want to abuse it, but so I did my own thing. So that was that. When I did Dark Sun is literally a sandbox. So like
Right.
I was in the world, but I was kind of doing my own thing. Uh, I did my own world right before the pandemic hit, and but then with Lamentations of Elemental Evil, everyone's like, "Oh, you're doing the temple. This is Greyhawk." And I was like, "No, this is going to be my own
Yeah.
thing." And then, but the Forbidden Lands game tomorrow, I'm actually incorporating the Ravens Purge campaign book. So I'm
Yeah.
actually gonna try to stick to the world as best I can, but I have a feeling I'll probably start deviating at some point because there's just aspects of the lore that I just find it contradictory and don't make much sense.
Right.
So,
Right.
but that one I might
It's
actually try to be a little bit more quote unquote rules as written with the lore.
right. I was gonna say it's funny. I was just talking about, running games in other people's worlds and how it made me uncomfortable. Yet I'm kind of a complete liar because I've run a ton of Star Wars games, both D6. Um, yes, Django, agreed. Um, I've run a bunch of D6 Star Wars, especially when I was a kid. And I am like the one guy in every group that thinks that the Fantasy Flight Star Wars, I guess now, I don't know who has it now. But the narrative dice Star Wars, I thought was brilliant. Everybody hates it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And I think Star Wars is that's like a real easy sort of setting to play in because everybody knows it. And as long as you tell everybody, hey, it's the movies. We're doing the first three movies. That's it. Maybe the Clone Wars count, maybe they don't. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Maybe the
Hmm.
prequels are all right, but we're not playing there. Um and that's an easy, really, I think, uh an easy world to run. You don't have to, you just know everything.
Yeah.
You instinctively know how Star Wars works and you don't really have to worry about it. Um but I don't get the same thing out of like, there was no movie for Forgotten Realms up until recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that I didn't. There was no. It didn't mean anything to any of the kids I played with. And earlier, I want to talk about. We were talking about Palladium and TMNT and all that kind of stuff. One of the reasons I never got to play those games, just so people know, when I was a kid and all that stuff was coming out, I lived in small town Texas. Like I had a graduating class of 67 kids. you know, and it was probably the next town over was probably about 15 minutes away, and they were barely bigger than us. Um, and there was a really small Walden Books in the mall, which was so small we called it the Hall because it was like a long strip of stores with a fountain. You could buy a pretzel and then another strip of stores. You know what I
Right.
mean? That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it. And so really all you saw there right up until I was a teenager were TSR books. You know what I mean? Um, so there was a lot of games like if we'd go to San Antonio like once or twice a year to buy school clothes, and that was where I think the first Dragon's Lair was. And I remember going there for comic books, not even
Uh-huh.
realizing that there were games and that was where like I first saw like a lot of people were playing Rifts. There was like I actually saw a community of people playing games in a store.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, there's a lot of games. Because up until that point, I think I had BX, I had Beck Me, I was into AD&D, I had Marvel, D6, Star Wars, Gamma World, but they were all TSR because that's what the big
Right.
stores had.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the classic stuff that I've played later, but there's a number of games I really should play. I've never touched Rifts. I never played TMNT. Um, I'm trying to think of some other big ones that I never touched. Call of Cthulhu. Never played Call of Cthulhu. Never played it. But we can do it right now if you want. You want to roll up some characters? We got about 20 minutes, bro. I'm down. Let's do it.
I have like the seventh edition book. It was a lot I found,
Yeah.
and I got all the seventh edition book, player's book, lore master's book, some other thing, and the full massive Nyarlathotep campaign, and for like really cheap. And I'm like, holy, and it's all in great condition, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna have to run a campaign. This is gonna be great. And I freaking hate seventh edition. It's just a terrible, terrible. I used
Yeah.
to play like an older edition of it, and it was a little bit more gritty, not all these like little fiddly bits. It was just roll your
Right.
percentage and that's it. But that's something that's been on, like, I've kind of put it on the shelf and I've ignored it. But that's a campaign I wouldn't mind running eventually as well. It's fun. I used to run that used to be my Halloween one shot with my buddies. I'd make up
Right.
like a one shot. And we'd use the Call of Cthulhu rules for it. And I even created my own little Halloween, bad guy that made an appearance in um, each year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Right.
uh, and
Isn't Call of Cthulhu like the number one role playing game in Japan for like the past 20
I
years or
think
something?
so. I think so.
Like
Something
it's
like that.
and
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things. I've read all the Lovecraft stuff. I'm one of those guys. I'm not like a Lovecraftian, I don't have any merchandise. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I've read enough that like how sometimes when you're watching a show, it can be fantasy, it can be science fiction, it can be horror, and they always slide in the old gods and you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I'm steeped enough to always see that, but I just never screw with the games. And I did play with a friend. There were those Arkham Horror board games. I think they're still out, and they would
Oh,
have the
yeah.
expansions and all that.
Yep.
And it was fun. You know what I mean? But it was a board game. It wasn't like
Yeah.
a role playing game or anything. And I love that era. Obviously, we're playing a role playing game right now that's 1920s, not too far from that era.
Yep.
And we're steeped in magic, so it's not like I
Yeah.
don't have an affinity. Just never got around to it, man.
Yeah.
You know,
I
and I have
it's
wasted my time on bad games, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I've got a couple that went during my crazy. I'm stuck at home, locked away. I'm just going to buy games and read them and hope to play them someday. There's some I'm going to start talking to eBay and see if I can get rid of them. But Borg is one of them.
yeah,
But
yeah. I'm gonna send that somewhere. I didn't mean to
but
defend Morgborg like I liked it. I
no, you're
just
fine.
meant
No, you're
it
fine.
has
No,
it has its place.
I'm. It's kind of like when you're a Lamentations guy, you got to just hate on Mark Park. You just do. You should have heard what Radji had to say about it. But anyway,
Yeah. You man, those Raji videos, you know what? Every
we got
once
to
in a while
get
I'll be
him on
watching,
our show.
we
We
got to
got
get
to
him
get
on the
him.
show. And I'll be watching his video, and like the first 10, 15 minutes, I'm like, preach, brother, preach. And then it's like, do not take your shirt off, dude. Whatever, sit down, just breathe, breathe. Like, I love that, dude. I want him to be okay, and I care about him. Um, at Brian Seraphine. Whoa, isn't Brian Seraphine our
Yeah.
Brian?
Oh my
Brian!
God, Brian,
Brian, brother!
dude, we were just talking about you a little, but not just, about an hour ago. There
we
he is.
we
There he
Brian,
is.
Brian Seraphine, um, you forever may contact one of us to be a guest or host or whatever you would like
Yeah, man.
on this show. But last time I talked to you, you told me that things were super crazy. Plus, man, I think you know, some people see the line and decide not to cross. Some
Not good.
people see the line and decide to cross it. Some people just don't see the lines and go, "What's everybody so pissed off about?"
Oh,
Guilty as charged. Um, so anyway, I love you, Brian. Please, anytime you want.
yeah, man. It's
Um,
been too long, too long.
we've got
Um,
about 19 minutes. Did we have any other topics, or are we good here? Is there anything else we wanted to talk about tonight? We're
no,
good.
yeah,
All right. Yeah. One thing I am curious to the people that are here and watching. Matt has an incredible, collection of books behind him, a role playing. And I notice every podcast, every live stream, every video I see, it's somebody sitting with their massive shelf of books, of games, which I always think is funny because they haven't played all those games.
it's true.
Um,
It's a
so
secret
I'm
shame.
gonna before we leave, I'm gonna give a hot take. You ready?
Okay.
All you motherfuckers need to get over this whole like I gotta have the book phase. PDFs are the way to go. Get yourself a decent reading device. Companies need to understand that we live in a modern world where PDFs need to be made better and more searchable. And I can't imagine having a whole wall that costs thousands upon thousands of dollars that I will never. Why you do that? That makes me nervous, bro.
It goes around the
I
corner.
I feel like you're gonna have to move that one day, and if you don't have to move that, you're gonna die, and your wife is. You know what I mean?
No, man, it's
Like,
all going to my son. I don't care what he does with it. Well, actually, no. The
what
lamentation
is
stuff.
what and that's the thing. And what I want to ask you is that like I know that, and we hadn't really talked about it. You had said it, and I think I giggled at it. But you did the big order for Acts 2.
Yep.
You have had the PDFs for
Yep.
however long,
Yep.
yet you have not cracked them because you're waiting for the physical. What is it about the physical book?
Well, this is not like any aesthetic thing or anything. It's like my really real job. I'm sitting in front of a computer, and I'm sitting in this room doing my really real job, sitting in front of a computer all day, reading PDFs, reading electronic documents. So when I want to relax and read something, I want a physical book so I can go into my living room, kick
Django.
and
Sorry.
hang out, sit on my easy chair, you know, sip a little
Yeah.
bourbon and just read. I want to have a relax. I've been like picking up all the books back here are Appendix N. I've been like picking up the old pulp authors and stuff. I don't want to read it online anymore. I need to have the books
Yeah.
just so I can get
I,
away from the computer.
I will say I do think that the books, it's nice to have the books at the table when you're playing, which is you've got your PD. Uh-oh. Is that you?
Wall of
Oh,
books make me
the
feel
wall
like
of
a
books
wizard.
makes me feel like a wizard. I know, right? Um, I like having the books there, while I'm playing the game at the table. They can be passed around. It's plus a lot of times I do keep a lot of notes on my iPad. That is probably my iPad is probably like if we're going to talk prep tools,
Yeah.
I have an iPad with a pencil. There you go. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not against books, but it does seem that this whole, when you're there's a thing for guitar players called GAS. It's called Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And it's when you spend more time looking at gear and putting your pedal board together than you do actually playing your instrument. Right. And
Yeah.
it's a real thing. Everybody, there's a lot of cool stuff. You know what I mean? You want to get a bunch of cool shit, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's like for the role playing games is it's like I don't have one, but I would like a physical copy of Shadow Dark to have around the table. I think one of the reasons I'm not like I'm getting rid of all my books is because they're useful on the table, which is why I'm gonna make you cringe. I love so much the OSC box sets with the little hardcovers in it
Oh yeah. No,
because you can have that on PDF. You can pass it to your players. It's all divided. There's your characters. There's your spells. Here's the rules. These are
that
mine.
is smart. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really neat thing. Do you it- do you find it's easier to read books than it is to read, say, a PDF or from your iPad
Oh
or from
yeah.
your
No,
computer?
that's actually a really good question because when I was running last summer, when I was running a ill-fated Walking Dead campaign with my in-person crew, I'd have the book for reference. And my biggest, I love Free League, but my biggest problem with them is their layout and the organization is always weird. So I have to
Yeah.
go through and I have to like tabulate so I can know where to go for quick reference. But I also have my little iPad, set up so I can like look at my
Right.
notes and some maps and stuff. And it's useful, but it does get a little annoying when you're like trying to click through windows or whatever, and your device isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. But the aggravation isn't so great that I want to go back to like printing out a bunch of paper and bringing like my
Right.
notes. You know what I mean? I like having that there. But if there is something that I know I need quick reference, I'll print it out just like it's like right there in front of me. You
Yeah.
know.
So I've been trying to get a printer. It's not about cost. It's not even about space. Where would I put it, right? I've been trying to get a printer for about 4 years now. And my girl, who is roughly 10 years younger than me, every time I say I want a printer in the house, she's like, Mr. Lewis, how old are you? Ugh, no one has a printer. And she's right. Like, I want a printer to do one thing, right? And then I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a printer so I can print off these eight fucking you know what I mean?
Right.
It's she's right, she is correct. So
I've been
yeah,
actually driving over to Staples when I do need to print something. Like, screw it, I'll pay you the 10 cents just so I don't have to worry about it.
yeah, I do that. I actually am getting ready to do a new Office Depot. I'm gonna get some stuff for Heroic, mostly just the screen, the Game Master screen, and I might break that up so I can blow it up a little bit because there's a
Yeah,
lot of boxes on those single pages.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's
you
something he
know,
needs to. I know that's just a beta test document, but he needs
yeah,
to maybe take a cue
man, I
from
would
the
love.
old Marvel where everything is on like one page. That would be nice.
Well, but I don't know. You know what? I will tell you, I'm not sure how possible that is with that game. There's a lot more explaining that has to be done, I think, like in the Marvel game, because everything's not 1 inch for this, 1 inch for that, 10, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There are some abstractions to it. And I don't know, you know what I mean? I feel like I love Universal Table. I love Marvel. I'm really enjoying Barry's Heroic, but it's very easy to poke holes.
yeah,
You can find there's a lot of holes to poke if you're
yeah,
looking for them,
yeah. Yep, I
So,
agree.
all right, man, we got 10 minutes left. I do want to ask you, um, what are you going to be working on and or reading game wise next week until the next stream? Next Friday night,
Oh,
10 p.m. Central, 11
oh, I
Eastern.
know. I know.
What's the homework? I want to know what you're going to be looking at so that when we get together next week, if we run out of stuff to talk about, I can read what you're reading and we can talk
Oh,
about that.
what am I reading? Oh,
Like
jeez.
game wise, like what
Game
are you
wise,
looking
well,
at?
right
What are you?
now, I've been looking at the four color system. It's a free document that's essentially a retroclone of Marvel Supers because I'm working on a project I'm calling Defenders of Elatria, and I've gotten like the origins done and the instead of calling them traits or abilities, I'm calling them heroic qualities. You know, the face rip things. I've renamed those, so I've been kind of steeped in that right now. I'm probably so I'm probably going to be looking at a lot of Marvel Super stuff this week.
Right.
Um, but I'm if the moment, and I don't know if it's going to happen this week. It should. But the moment I get um, the end of Innocence, I'm going to be like really studying the hell out of that to get some ideas for the campaign um, later this summer.
Yeah.
So
I think I am going, and guys, you all two of you that are watching, if you want to follow along or know what we're talking about, I think um, I'm going to be back in Heroic again, reading that. And I really do. Everybody go get that. Go to Bear's YouTube page, check out the Patreon. He's really carrying the torch for this system like no one else has.
yep,
You know, there's been some other universal table clones um, that are fine. There was the original phase rip. There's the four. What's it called? Four CP.
yeah,
There's phase ripopedia. You know, there's all these books, and they're fine games. Um, but I really think that what Bear is doing, or what he's attempting to accomplish here, is um, I think aesthetically it's a better product. I think it is written at a slightly higher level than the other games. And I think he just really put a lot of thought into what a universal table game can be. So go get that. I'm going to be in that. We're running our game Thursday. I am going to be reaching out to one player in particular over this week, Magneto Vendetta. You will be getting a chat. We have some things to talk about. Um, oh, do we have some things to talk about, Vendetta? No, I'm just kidding.
oh god,
But yeah, and so I'll be prepping for that, and then I've got another little side project game wise that I need to be working on. But of course, like everything else, it's how many of my three kids are going to get sick this week? Are we going to break an arm? Who
yeah.
knows? Who
I think
knows what's
Yeah,
going
I
on?
think the next deep dive video I do for the heroic will probably start. I think I'm gonna start getting into the combat action stuff. Um, yeah, I think that might be the next thing I do. That's actually what I'm going to really be focusing on alongside developing my little vanity project for
At most, you're
my
absolutely correct. You need more karma being handed out. We'll talk about that at game time.
yeah,
There's a lot of, we were talking about how to start up games, and we never really got around to it because we wandered. But one of
yeah.
the things I was going to confess to is that I have no problem skimming the rules to a game and then being like, all right, guys, let's play. Let's do it. I have no problem
And
doing
just
that.
to highlight the difference between Gary and I discovered in the past few years doing these deep dives that outlining the books, putting them in the rules into your own sort of your own words in a nice outline, meticulously going through page by page will allow you to get those rules in your head. I know lamentation. I know lamentations like the back of my hand. I'm starting to know heroic really well, and some of the other games I played, like Alien RPG, like
Right.
I now granted I'm not telling you to give you homework where
So
you like,
I
but
think,
it does
see,
help.
this
It
is going to
really
lead us
does
to
help.
something. I feel like if you have to outline a rule book, that rule book wasn't written well enough.
I disagree.
Now, if you got to go through and write your own notes, for like every
I'm not saying you
chapter.
have to. I was like, if you're, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I learn
That's
by
true.
doing and writing. So like by outlining these things and doing these stupid little PowerPoint presentations I've been doing for the past few
Yeah.
years, like I know a lot of this stuff backwards and forwards now. Very rarely do I have to check my Lamentations book during game. In fact, Thursday I actually did have to look up a spell because I'm like, is that permanent? And oh, yep, it is. But
Well,
other than that, like it's been like almost,
yeah. And I think that's another, that's the difference. Everybody has their different strengths, in what they're doing, right? Everybody, has their different gifts or what have you. You are the kind of person that takes that information in and just, you can take it and hold it, right? Like I can be holding my keys while I look for my keys for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it
yeah,
is, it's very, it is, people learn differently and do different things. And I joke about, not prepping. I just don't. I think I prep in my own befuddled, like, this is how my brain works. This is how I'm doing it. And I love taking advice when I get good advice, but I just feel like everybody's
yeah,
game is so
yeah,
different. You know what I mean? It's, which makes
yeah.
everybody prep
Well, with the
differently. So,
Lamentations one, what I've really loved about the past 2.5 years is I review my notes for like a half hour ahead of time, and then we play. And it's really been like Lamentations of Elemental Evil is like the polar opposite of my 10-year long campaign from the 90s. That was like an adventure path, beginning, middle, end. We never got to the end, but we were close, Um, and Lamentations is like where I had like a heavy hand, like kind of directing, making things, using the Hickman bump, to
mhm.
keep people kind of like. And this, I was
Right,
just like
right.
hands off. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Well, I guess we'll just go explore this forest. One hex outside of Hamlet, they get almost mauled by a black bear, and they have to go back. And that was the session. And like, well, you guys got no experience and no gold. See you next week, But like, but that was
Yeah,
fun. Like they were laughing about that. We almost got killed by a bear. Um, and it just watching them do whatever and slowly sort of figuring things out and then make their way towards the temple of elemental evil because that was like the theme. The temple is the source of evil.
yeah,
You're heading there. It's just how you get there. So it's been great.
yeah. Hey, can you highlight Brian
This one,
James real quick? He said, I spend hours prepping. I know it's probably too much, but it also serves as me time at home. Dude, I totally agree with that. And I would never tell somebody not to prep how they like. You know what I mean? Like do your thing, man, because it is a very cathartic sort of down calming meditation or whatever. That is totally good for you. I think the only problem that I see with people who do a ton of prep is that a lot of those guys want certain things to happen in a certain sequence of events. And if you've seen, it's expanded greatly since I even showed my players, but sort of my Bible for the row game, it's not thin. I just don't when I say I prep differently because a lot of my games are narratively driven, it's more important for me to know the world and know how the characters will react to certain events happening than it is important for me to know exactly what my players are going to do that evening. So prep is just different because I don't know what
yeah,
my players are going to do. They might do something
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
crazy, and they have a car. You know what I mean? It's they can go wherever they want. So it's one of those things. Um, Anyway, bro, 2 minutes. First cast. We're
yeah,
trying to stay
yeah.
on
And there
topic.
was like, I don't think there was
You
any
know,
tech issues. That was like my biggest. I was literally pacing around the
no
house
tech
for hours
issues.
before the stream, going, "Oh God, oh God, please no tech issues, no
Dude, I
tech
knew it. I could feel
issues."
it. It's funny because I was at Little Deli with my kid eating a slice and grabbing a sandwich and thinking, I bet Matt is really like losing his
You
mind
know
right
me too
now.
well, dude.
And then you get online like straight up an hour early, and I'm like, oh, I should get online. And I turn to look, and like my wife's handing the teenager a beer, and they're watching they're fucking wrestling on TV. Two chicks just beating the hell out of each other. And I'm like, well, probably not starting now. Um, anyway,
Yeah,
Matt, it was a lot of fun. Thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody for being here. It was great. It was so much fun. Utmost, Brian Serafine. Brian, I'm so happy you showed up. I know you're probably gone now, but I'm really happy you showed up. But everybody that took part in the conversation, thank you. Please, 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 let's get over to Matt's server. Let's join the server. Let's sign up for games. Let's build a
yeah.
lot of players,
I'll get the
and let's
yeah,
play
I'll get the
games, guys.
links up, and you're all welcome. And thanks for joining the conversation. Thanks for being here tonight. We'll be doing it again next week. So I don't have any outro. I've totally forgot to make one, so I'm just gonna play the first thing because I like the first thing anyway.
He made a great outro for the row, though. The outro for the row is rap.
Yeah, that was fun. That's fun. But anyway, everyone, have a great
Yeah.
weekend. Happy gaming, and we'll talk to you next week.
Love you guys. Take it easy. Stay safe out there.
Second watch.